Welcome to Transqat. I'm Claire McCarthy. There's a scene in one of my favorite binge-worthy shows, Sense8. The character Fernando, an art historian and professor, is confronted by one of his students. The student has seen leaked tabloid photos of Fernando and his love in flagrante delicto. The student declares the images to be gay porn. Fernando responds with a poignant monologue. It's on YouTube if you don't have Netflix. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But Fernando says this is where the relationship between the subject and object reverses, and what was seen now reveals the seer. Photographer Samuel Avery and I sat down this week at the Blue Orchid in New Haven. The Orchid is a Pan-Asian cuisine restaurant and bar. It's on Court Street, just 2 streets over from the town green. I want to thank the owners. They were very gracious and welcoming. The Orchid has designated some wall space as a mini art gallery. Exhibits change monthly. Samuel's presentation ends on January 6th, so if you're in the area, you really owe it to yourself to visit the Orchid, have a fantastic meal, more on that at the end, and interact with these photographs. Sam's work is powerful stuff, and as I was working on the audio for this episode, I realized that at times I was talking as much as I was listening. His art revealed me to myself, and I felt compelled to talk to him about it. It was a wonderful experience. And it reminded me of the final line in Fernando's scene. Art is love made public. Samuel Avery, welcome to Transqat.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. Actually, where is here? Where are we?
We're at the Blue Orchid in New Haven, Connecticut.
A Pan-Asian restaurant, bar.
Yep.
Actually, I was putting money in the meter, and
I was doing that earlier,
the guy
too.
who parked ahead of me got out and said, "Where's that smell coming from?" Because that smells good. So it's like, yeah,
right away.
And
yep.
I'm going to be right in there. So if you would, just introduce yourself. Tell us a little about who Sam Avery is.
So my name's Samuel Avery. I'm a 24-year-old photographer from Berlin, Connecticut.
Youngster.
Got to start younger. But I specialize in more so like concept and editorial stuff. But I want to focus more on the trans client base specifically, just because I'm trans myself. I transitioned when I was 21. And I kind of started my photography there, and I kind of wanted to explore more in-depth concepts and kind of create dialogue with my work. So I started with self-portraits and everything like that, and now I'm kind of moving more onto portraits as well and involving other trans clients into my work so I could kind of capture their own experience in addition to my own.
We had been talking earlier, and you were saying that you wanted your work to sort of point to 2 different things, that being trans is a reason to celebrate, it's a cause for joy,
yep.
And that there's, I'm not sure how to word it. I want to say darker, but I'm not sure that's the right way to word it.
I kind of phrased it in my sense as I wanted to capture the trans joy of someone's experience as well as the hardships and the pain of their own experience. Mm-hmm. So with the specific project that I do, it's called Capturing the Transmasculine Experience. So with that one, I want to capture the trans joy of my clients and like with specific symbolism and all of that in my portrait photography. So I'll create a concept for them specifically about their own experience. Then I'll do the same thing on the hardships aspect. Mm-hmm. I kind of just want people to see that like being trans, yes, it's really, really hard, right. Especially coming from someone like a photographer who knows as well. Right. And then I want them to kind of see the happiness and the joy side of it.
Yeah, and I think both of those things come through in the pieces that I've seen. I was lucky enough to catch one of your exhibits at the New Haven Pride Center last month, maybe?
Yep.
Okay. And now we're here in New Haven again to take a look at your exhibit. We're going to go over and do a sort of walkthrough together, and you'll
definitely
hold my hand through some of the art. Your photography to me seems really emotion-based.
Yes.
I look at each of your pieces and it's vivid.
Thank you.
And sometimes painful,
right.
Because even though you're transmasculine and I'm transfeminine, mm-hmm. there's a degree of overlap there that that really hits me. Mm-hmm. How do you get to that when you're doing self-portraits? It seemed to me that if you were working with some of your trans clients and saying, okay, so what is it you would like us to try to portray here? That's one thing. But how do you have to get yourself into an emotional space?
Honestly, yeah. It depends on which shoot specifically that I'm doing. So it depends if I'm doing kind of more of a dysphoria shoot or hardships, kind of that kind of thing. I'll do those when I am feeling dysphoric and kind of after the fact.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've had like experiences where I've been super dysphoric. I'm trying to figure out an outfit to plan that day or something like that. And I ended up doing a photo shoot to kind of make myself feel better, because for me, taking pictures and kind of seeing those after and editing them and being able to really, really see my own emotion, it kind of helped me in that moment. So that's why I'm trying to focus on other clients and see if that can help them as well.
So the emotion that I'm seeing in the photographs,
Is
that's
actually,
in the moment. That's wow. Okay, that's not surprising on an emotional and artistic level, but I suppose technically I was like, okay, well, how do you get to there if you're not feeling that? But that's, wow, there's got to be a bit of danger for you in doing that. A little bit,
yeah. I would say it again, as I said before, it depends on which suit I'm doing, but definitely with like the mirror ones, all of those ones specifically, I definitely was feeling a certain type in that moment, which kind of helped kind of capture the emotion itself.
Sure.
But that is what I want to do as a photographer, is capture emotion and use it as kind of a release, an artistic release, if that makes sense.
I assume that with the number of with the website and then the number of exhibits that you've had, you get feedback.
I do, yeah.
What do you hear from trans people?
The best thing is just the comments that tell me that they feel seen when they see my work and they don't feel alone. And that's what I'm trying to do. I want my work to kind of reach that trans audience and have them relate to something, because you don't see it everywhere. You don't see it in media every day, especially with pictures. So I want them to kind of have something where they could be like, oh, wow, like, that captures my emotion perfectly, and that captures my experience perfectly and what I was going through, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've been thinking about since first seeing your work is that, yes, there are a lot more representations in pop culture of trans people, but for the most part, they're all really well balanced, and the camera's only on them when they're with their friends and everything's going great. And a friend of mine told me that I needed to watch Heartstopper on Netflix, and and she's just so together, the character Elle, and I think about a number of the representations, and they tend to shy away from anything that's going to put people off. But, But there's a sense of, I know this is happening to me, so I really appreciated seeing it.
I've gotten a lot of, even the show at the New Haven Pride Center, someone just came in and it made their whole day. They cried.
Yeah. So
stuff like that is really, really awesome to hear, especially from the trans community.
It made you feel good that you made people cry,
Not specifically
Sam? What do you get feedback from cishet people?
I do, yeah. A lot of it is creating the dialogue and them actually asking me questions and learning about the trans experience, because a lot of my pieces, I not only want to reach the trans audience, but the cisgender audience as well. I want them to learn something. I want them to take in our experience and maybe be able to understand it for just a second if they look at it. You know what I mean?
Well, there's a lot in your work that I think would be applicable. I was looking at your website, and one of the categories was where I take the scissors, and you had these were self-portraits with dotted lines on your body, and I certainly went right for that and had a very emotional reaction to that. But then once I kind of got past myself, I thought, well, that's something that's relatable to
exactly
everybody.
That's a very relatable topic just in general, especially like just the hips, all of that. Like for me, that's my own hip dysphoria. I've reached a lot of trans individuals in that aspect, but even just everyone, almost.
Sure. Does buying jeans throw you off?
Always.
Because of the hip thing?
Yeah. It's hard to buy pants in general, to be honest. It's the worst. I can't buy pants online.
Oh, tell me about it.
Shopping is just the worst. No one should come shopping with me.
Yeah, right, exactly. Especially with a bathing suit. I had to bring a friend, and we had to have a couple of cocktails first.
Absolutely.
Because it was just
Much
like, this is
needed.
not going to go well. But yeah, so I mean, and I think everybody feels that way about something. Oh, I don't like my nose. Mm-hmm. I don't like the couple of pounds I put on over COVID or whatever. So that part seems really relatable.
Yeah, I've had a couple people comment on just like the reflection ones, as we were saying before, but there's a specific piece that's actually in the display. It's called Not My Reflection.
Right.
And even just people who have body dysphoria rather than, or body dysmorphia, that's what it is.
Sure.
Rather than gender dysphoria. It's relatable all around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's there are different degrees of it, obviously, but it's something that's imminently there. That idea that I look in the mirror and I'm not seeing what I want.
Exactly.
And some people are able to look at that, my dearest friend is able to sort of look at that and say, okay, well, a lot of that is because advertising is telling you you're supposed to look like this, and you don't.
Exactly.
You're supposed to have this type of hip, Sam. And it's that gap between what the advertising tells you you're supposed to be and what you're seeing that's actually causing the distress. And that I think is universal for a lot of folks.
Right.
That's not. Is it okay to call you an artist?
Yes.
I think, because I look at this and I know you do portraits. I've seen them on your website, but what we're going to go look at in a minute, to me, is art.
I like to say that at least the self-portrait aspects, that's definitely art. Even my other pieces with just portraits of other trans folk and just my clients in general, I do think of that as art as well, just because I'm creating a concept and almost making it alive in a sense, but with,
of course,
my portraits like art in general. So,
and that's the challenge of photography versus film. How am I going to get that one emotion or that one thought from me behind the camera to somebody down the road? Is there a bigger truth that you want your art to get at in general?
I would say, especially, I was gonna mention the theme, kind of, because especially with this piece at the Blue Orchid in New Haven, I wanted the theme to it's about transition in general. So I want the overall takeaway to mainly be just about change, and it's not bad, it's not scary. And the first section of my pieces is about the hardships and taking that away from the trans experience and seeing our hardships and what we go through. And then the second aspect, I want people to take away the awareness. So these are more of my awareness pieces that tell a story, tell people to start standing up and having a statement and an opinion about the trans experience in general. So I want people to see that whole thing and see that transition and change is okay. And the trans experience isn't this taboo topic that should be like that people are scared to talk about. You know what I mean?
That's what I was leaning at earlier, is that it stays taboo if the only representations are sort of the very cleaned up ones.
Right.
To bring people into awareness of something they didn't even realize was part of it before. The one thing being, you're saying that change isn't scary, but one of the aspects that I think your work does really well is that change involves time. It's not a matter of I'm out now and it's all good. I've done what I want to do for medical transition, and now everything is hunky-dory. There's a time aspect.
Yes, there's like a timeline to it, is what I like to tell people, especially people who ask for advice about transitioning. And I tell them time really makes a huge difference, especially with just the changes on like testosterone for myself, as well as just people understanding. And I like to tell people if they ask about coming out, you might need to give people time to understand, and because they've never experienced the things that we experience.
Right.
It's there's only a select few people that will be able to relate to it. So I want those people who see my work to relate to it, and then those who don't relate to it, I want them to learn from it.
Right. And might be better informed with questions down the road for having seen it.
Exactly.
Are there queer artists that you admire, people that inspired you, or photographers in general?
I've never really seen other specifically trans photographers. There's a couple artists themselves that I kind of admire just in general with the editorial work that they do. I like to kind of see their work and kind of take it in a little bit and like use it as inspiration for my own editorial work.
Sure. Want to toss some names out there?
Yeah,
sure.
One of them is Michael Betzner Photography. I've seen his work on TikTok and Instagram. He's an amazing editorial photographer. And then the other one is Danny. Her Instagram name, I believe, is the editorial photographer, but she also does a lot of editorial work, and I love it. It's amazing. I do see some of it, and I'll kind of take a couple symbolism and kind of use them in my own creative way. But I've talked to them a couple times, and they kind of have the same idea as me, where they want to capture emotion and concepts and experience with their work.
Just let me ask where, because this exhibit is going until
January 6th.
January 6th.
Yes.
Okay, so soon, sadly. Well, so if you can get to the Blue Orchid in New Haven before January 6th, well worth your time, both in terms of the food and the art on the wall. If folks can't get here by the 6th, how can they see your work?
So I have a website. Everything is on samaverymedia.com. And then I also have a section under my portfolio section on my website that I actually included all of the galleries that I have been in, and they could actually kind of see almost a virtual view
tour
of
there,
it.
yeah. One of the galleries that before we head over there, that I just wanted to ask you about, you have a gallery called Scene of the Crime.
Yes, I do.
Was that an actual incident?
No, that was
good.
under it was 31 Nights of Halloween. I did a bunch of editorial photo shoots during the month of October, and one of them was called Scene of the Crime.
Okay.
But
I don't want to give anything away. Please go to Sam's website and check that out. But I found myself worrying about you while I was sitting at home, so I'm glad to hear that everything's okay.
All fake blood in that photo shoot.
Okay,
don't worry.
Well, and now that we've scared off some people. So then we walked from our back corner table to the gallery space, and you'll hear more background noise from the kitchen and the bar. Now, I strongly recommend that you pause the podcast and refer to Sam's website as we discuss his art. The conversation makes a lot more sense and is much more rewarding if you have the accompanying visuals. Okay, so should we start left to right over here?
Yeah, we can do left to right.
All right, so I'm looking at, let's take these first two together because they're related by theme of social media. Right. Tell me what we're looking at and...
So the first one on the top I named Coming Out. So this one I wanted to capture basically just my coming out experience and the experience of coming out, especially for trans folk. For me personally, I have come out. This was my third time coming out. So I had come out as bisexual a couple years prior. Then I came out as a lesbian after that, and then the third time was me having to come out as transgender. So obviously I know a lot of other people relate to the difficulties of coming out. It's kind of one of the worst things ever, but don't worry. It doesn't get too difficult. But I will say with this specific piece, I wanted to capture just like I have me crouching in my closet, and then I wanted to incorporate social media because with texting, that's kind of how a lot of people do have to communicate nowadays. And then I incorporated 3 hangers on the top to symbolize the 3 times I did come out.
Oh, interesting. Okay. You are seated in the closet. Fetal position?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I liked, and one of the things I noticed about this when I saw it earlier is that the door's open, you know, and that's something that once we're on the other side of, tends to feel like, oh, that was so easy.
Right.
Why didn't I do this
Exactly.
earlier? Why was it such a big thing? Because the door is open at any time
Exactly.
for you to come out. Now, below that, you've also, instead of the text from you to the world saying, I don't know how to tell you this, but you've got reactions online. This one's called The Reality of Being Openly Trans on Social Media.
So yeah, with these pieces, well, this was a set. I did a couple other pieces with this one, but I kind of incorporated all of the hate, not all of them, because there are definitely a lot more, but I incorporated some of the hate comments I've gotten on social media, whether that was on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and I put them above me in the piece, and I was having myself read my computer to kind of give the sense of me reading the hate comments, because it does get hard, especially when they come all at once, and some of the hate comments are definitely hard to read. As a trans person, I know a lot of other people who are openly trans on social media get them as well, so I wanted this to kind of relate to them, and I also wanted people to see it and really understand the hate and like the discrimination that trans people do have to face on a daily basis.
And that's something that maybe you are exposed to more than, well, say I am, because as an artist, you put your work out there, you want people to pay attention to it, which opens the door again for a lot of hateful things. Looking at this now with a bit of time and distance, are the comments still hurtful?
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Now this, because I've had conversations with other trans men, this was one of the first ones that really caught my eye. It's called shot anxiety. You are, I can't tell if you're sitting on the floor in the bathroom.
I'm sitting on top of the toilet.
On top of the toilet
bathroom,
seat,
yeah.
okay. And on the counter, we've got a syringe and your bottle of tea. What's the emotion here?
So with this particular set, I kind of wanted to bring awareness to just taking your tea shot for especially trans folk. To me, I have really bad shot anxiety. I'm not sure, it depends on who you are, but I know a lot of people do have really bad shot anxiety just because you have to stick yourself with a needle every week. Just to be who you are, and it definitely gets hard the more I have to do it. It was more of an exciting thing at first, which is what one of my next pieces talks about, more so the relationship with testosterone. But all in all, there are different ways to take it, but needles are the easiest.
And are you shooting into the thigh?
So I started with my thigh, and I'm now shooting it into my ass.
Oh, okay.
But which is actually easier.
That hard? Is the mechanics of that
it's
harder?
kind of just having to turn, which is a bit.
Well, see, this is where my being considerably older than you, I was like, what, turning? What?
But it is a little easier for me. I changed it up just because I didn't really want to continue doing it I had to switch from right to left.
Emotionally, is that better? Either emotionally or physically. Does it hurt less?
For me, it hurts less, I will say. I'm not sure about other people, but for me, it does hurt less to do it in my ass now. So.
And I would think, therefore, at least a little less.
A little less,
anxiety?
yeah.
A little, but
a little
still
less.
there.
Yep.
The one underneath that, this is the one you were talking about?
Yeah, so this one's about my relationship with testosterone. So I wanted to do a shoot before my shot to kind of focus on my love-hate relationship with it, because I used to be excited for shot day at the beginning of my transition. I loved it. I loved picking up my testosterone. I loved thinking about the changes it would bring, and now I kind of forget about it sometimes. I have to remind myself I'm not as excited about it anymore, just because it's become part of my life. It's every week.
It's a chore.
Yeah,
it's a chore. It's like mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
Now, you have a number of your photographs that we're working our way toward here. You have written on your body, or I assume had people write on you.
Yes, yeah.
But you also have artwork on your body, and this shot has a couple of things on the on your arm. The mind over body rebus, I like.
Yes, so that's one of my favorite tattoos. Actually, I have a piece called Mind Over Body. That's above this. Actually, it's this one right here. That was my first dysphoria piece that I ever captured at all. It was the very beginning of my transition in 2020, and I kind of just wanted to capture this idea of just being trans, like the mismatch between your mind and your body, and how I was wearing KT tape in this one, so I hadn't gotten surgery yet. I was definitely a lot more dysphoric than I am now, but it's kind of just encompassing the whole fact that we were born in the wrong body.
Yeah. The attention in that one, because you're in a dark room with the shades drawn, the attention is on your fists.
Exactly.
And that's, I know that anger. I know that, especially at the beginning of transition, it's not going fast enough. I'm not there yet. What if I get to there and it's not what I pictured? And there's just so much anxiety on top of the dysphoria that those fists speak volumes to me. Going back to your tats on your arm here, I know what this is, but could you explain what that tat is?
That's the testosterone molecule. I've had a lot of people ask questions about it. I've had one person tell me that they thought it was the coffee molecule. Sometimes
okay, again,
I'm not
a
really
legitimate choice for a tattoo, but
sometimes I'm not really quite sure what to say, because some people don't really understand why I have the testosterone molecule on me, and I don't necessarily want to out myself, but I still say it, and the conversation usually ends there.
Let them think it's coffee.
Exactly.
Yeah. I also, because I'm not sure which ones are coming up here, I want to ask you about, you're very open in a number of your photographs about your scars.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk to you seriously about that, because that's something that we share. We've both had top surgery, which, by the way, top surgery was the worst because I couldn't use my arms afterwards.
Yeah.
And my friend sort of brought me home and plunked me on the couch, and then I realized I can't get up.
I fully couldn't do anything.
And then you just start panicking. But your scars are on full display here. That's a choice. Tell me about that for this photograph.
So I really wanted to kind of just connect that this is a trans experience, and my scars are a sign of that for a lot of the time for other trans folk, and just even like a cisgender person seeing this, it's like, oh, okay, that is someone who has gotten surgery, gender affirming surgery. But for me also, like, I am very insecure about the fact that I have scars, so I do want this to kind of help me get more comfortable with my scars, and seeing them on display as art is kind of really cool.
Yeah. Well, one of the things art does is it brings out something in the viewer.
Exactly.
That's inside of them. And so I look at this, and what you just said is exactly the same. I am scared to share those parts of my body with anybody at this point. And so to see that right there does make me feel, okay, not alone. There is a way forward. I don't know how to get there, but there is.
I also like the idea of kind of turning trans bodies into art, because we shouldn't be seen as this weird thing that people are like, oh my god, like what's, like, asking what's in your pants, like all those kind of questions. I want my art to really show the beauty of the trans body.
Yeah, and it is. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Which might be belied by the small photograph underneath it, entitled "I Hate My Body."
This one was actually what I was mentioning before, the time after I couldn't find an outfit. I was really dysphoric. So I did this photo shoot to kind of capture my emotions in that entire experience for me. And also this was a whole set. So the first ones were me writing "I hate my body" on the mirror and kind of taking reflection shots. And the other shots was actually me wiping it off to kind of show that, you know what, no, I love my body, I can love my body, although I am trans and this has been a hard experience for me, I want to be able to love my body. But this was the before, so this was the dysphoric part of it.
There is, now actually all of the ones we've looked at so far, either your eyes, your face are not in the shot or they're covered.
Right.
This is the first time we see your face, and there is a lost look in there.
Yes.
That's the word that I think when I look at it, is that, yeah, you've been looking at yourself in the mirror for some time, and there's just a lost feeling.
And that's similar to this one next to it. It's the reflection as well, but this time my face is covered with my hands.
Yeah.
So this was before I got top surgery, and the KT tape, I wanted to kind of bring attention to that in the photo too.
Tell us about that.
So that's,
you don't know.
Right. So KT tape is what I used to bind. So before I got top surgery, I kind of had to bind my chest to make it appear to look smaller. It helped with my dysphoria a lot, but it was definitely a bit unsafe with how much I would do it.
Okay.
Just because it's not good to really have a binder on for more than like 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day, days in a row. Like, you really, really shouldn't.
How uncomfortable is the tape compared to a binder, a traditional binder?
I would say for me it was more comfortable because I liked the fact that I didn't have something all over my chest, and it was kind of only on like the sides and the front. But it was a little just difficult when having to take it off, like just in general ripping tape off of you.
Yeah,
it's like you have to really use like a...
Did you notice I started flinching as you were
Yeah.
describing it? Yeah, taking tape off my body. I have trouble with Band-Aids.
It's like a Band-Aid. It was rough.
All right, so we go from these into a series of portraits where you have lots of stuff written on your body.
Yes.
In addition to, we can still see the scars, your own tats. So pick one and tell us about it.
Well, so the main pieces that this entire theme is centered around are my... Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
It's my first piece was called "Fuck Your Transphobia." I did it in 2021, and my second piece was "Love Over Hate." So these two pieces kind of go hand in hand because the first set I'll talk about first. But with this set, it was kind of to raise awareness for Transgender Day of Remembrance and bring attention to those affected by trans violence. So I took all of the hate comments that I've gotten, the worst ones, and I had my roommate at the time write them all over my body. I wanted to show and capture this constant transphobia that I experienced in my own life and so many others experience in their life. And I wanted to show that words can hurt people, and people don't really realize the effect that they do have on others. And with some of these quotes, I mean, I've gotten comments saying like, wow, that I've never seen. Like, the first one is "Jesus hates you." And that's definitely a big one.
That's a two-step back photograph.
Yeah.
You look at that.
You look at that and
you
it's
can't
like,
look
wow.
away. It's you have to deal with that.
Right. And I wanted to create this dialogue and really start these conversations like, wow, people actually say this to you just because you are who you are. And I wanted that to be the main focus in that set. And then the second set, I wanted the main focus to really be changing that perspective that people have on the trans community and kind of turning it into love and a more positive outlook.
And this is where you have the hateful things written on your body in black, and then things have been edited with red.
Right.
So in the second one, we see that Jesus hates you, but hate has been ruled out and love's printed in above it.
Right. So with this one, this was actually exactly a year after the first one. I had my girlfriend write all of the hate comments on me, but then I had her switch to a red pen and correct them and make them more positive statements. So instead of "Jesus hates you," I turned it into "Jesus loves you." Instead of "still a girl," I made it "still a man." Instead of "once a girl, always a girl," I made it "once a man," or "once a girl, always a man." So comments like those, I wanted to bring attention to this positive outlook and like say, hey, like, this is how we should be treating trans people. Like, start correcting others, stop being silent when someone is being transphobic. We need more love in the community, and that's kind of what this one is focused on.
Right, a way to say, hey, that's, I'm not trans, but that's not cool.
Right.
In this setting or in any other. Well, let's keep on moving down here.
Awesome.
Dating a trans person, we've got.
Right. So this is a very specific topic that I feel like not enough attention is kind of brought to. Just the idea of dating as a trans person. I know a lot of other trans people have had a hard time dating. It's just in general having a relationship and being open like that with someone else is very, very vulnerable to do.
It is. It's very intimidating.
Yeah.
I can only speak for myself, but
Right.
I find it very intimidating. I started realizing I was using COVID as a reason not to reach out to people because I didn't know where that would lead. And
Exactly.
Yeah. And vulnerable is the right word. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. And with this piece, I had my girlfriend, because I've been dating her for it's almost a year now. But she helped me with writing on me as well as I wrote on her. So I wrote on her hands. And one of the quotes up here, it says, dating a trans person in a society that sexualizes and objectifies them is a privilege. And then I also had her write on me that love is human, not gendered.
Yeah.
These kind of all in all, I just wanted to show that trans people deserve love, so they should be loved for who they are.
I genuinely loved the word privilege there because that twists the sort of I'm going to say self-deprecating, but I think we both know it's self-loathing.
Yeah.
That I approach the idea of dating as I'd be lucky to find anybody who would want to date me.
Right.
But to turn that perspective and say being able to be with a trans person is a privilege.
Absolutely.
And a joy. That was the part that when I was poking through online that it got a little dusty. And just for the cis het people who are listening to this, what does that mean that society sexualizes and objectifies our bodies?
I just feel like it's almost every day that someone is going to get a comment. If anyone finds out that you're trans, the question that everyone's thinking, not everyone, but I will say a lot of people are just like, well, what's in your pants? They want to know. They want to know about your body. They want to know about, it's just these personal questions all the time. And you wouldn't do that to someone who's cisgender or straight, would you? No.
I'm pretty sure I've never asked anybody
under
any set of circumstances what was in their pants.
Because they truly don't care.
Yeah, are you kind? Then let kindness be in your pants. Can we have T-shirts made with that, please? This is a glorious picture. Again, we've got the chest with the top surgery scars. But tell me about the rest of it. This is called bottom growth. So
this was actually one of my favorite pieces that I have. I wanted to bring attention to the idea of bottom growth for transmasculine people because it's a topic that people don't know about, they're not educated on, and I wanted to use sunflowers to do so because sunflowers are a symbol for growth, and so I covered them over my private parts and had only my scars showing to show that it is a trans body, and I wanted to show that bottom growth is not this sensitive topic that people shouldn't be scared to talk about, like that trans bodies are beautiful and there is a beauty in them in general. So I kind of made mine into art myself. Yeah. But I wanted to talk a little bit about bottom growth in general too, as just an educational topic. I have LGBTQ trans resources on my website with a blog that kind of goes into depth on the topic of bottom growth, which is something that happens to trans masculine folk who are on testosterone with their private parts. So if you are confused on it or you want more information on it, I do have a blog on my website with like everything that kind of goes more into depth about the topic.
The color is wonderful, you know, after some of the darker emotions that we went through, the color in this is gorgeous. To see it focused there
exactly
is thought-provoking.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, maybe I should rethink this. I'm going to get this wrong. I will put it in the show notes. There's a quote in Angels in America about God intending the human body to be a garden. The line, as spoken by the Continental Principality of America, that is, the angel, is the body is the garden of the soul. And that's what came to mind was the Tony Kushner line, and I'm embarrassed that I can't get it exactly. But let me let's just go to these last two here, if we could. On the bottom one again, color. We've got the trans
pops
colors.
of trans colors. Yep.
The blue and the pink.
This one was I actually did it on my 2-year on testosterone mark. It's called Self-Made. I kind of just wanted this there were other ones with it that had a couple other quotes, but the main quote that I had on my back is Trans Lives Matter, because in general, I just really, really want people to see that and kind of feel something and be like, oh, like that's a powerful piece with like a powerful statement.
Yeah.
Because for me, like, it was my 2-year on T mark. Like, I was 2 years on testosterone. It was really crazy to see how fast really my transition went on T. And at the end of the day, my entire experience, it still kind of led down to this one statement, which is just Trans Lives Matter.
The top one involves more tape. I'm a little worried about the tape usage, Sam, but tell me about this. This is different.
This one I called Stop Misgendering Trans People. So for this one, I wanted to focus on the idea of pronouns and misgendering, because my whole life I've been misgendered quite often, whether it was purposefully or not. So I wrote she, her, which were my pronouns for 21 years of my life. And then I crossed it out and I wrote he, him underneath it. So I wanted to use the tape to kind of symbolize my anxiety when it comes to correcting people when they misgender me.
Right. How do you handle that?
It depends. It's like hard for me even to correct people, especially because sometimes it really is a mistake.
Yeah.
But I would very much rather prefer if someone does misgender me, they just correct themselves and move on. Like, it doesn't need to be this whole I'm sorry, like, please don't apologize.
Well, my experience of that has been the bigger of a deal that they make of it, the more they make that incident about them.
Exactly.
It's no longer about you and how can I be respectful of you. It's, oh, I'm so sorry.
Right. And then you have to kind of console them.
Right.
And it's like, well, you're the one who misgendered me.
Well, I really appreciate that tour. And that's, for most of those, that's the second time I've seen them. Third, if you count the time I spent on the website this week. It's very powerful stuff. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell me just a little bit more. I think you did mention this, that you do portraits of trans people. 'Cause everything we just looked at is self-portrait.
Yep. I do have a couple sections on my website for the projects that I have. So I have a lot of LGBTQ-focused projects. One of them is the Capturing the Transmasculine experience. Then I'm starting also a Capturing the Transfeminine experience one as well, because I want to get more transfeminine models. But to start off with, I do portraits of other trans folk to capture their own experience. Whether that's they want something altogether. If they want to be a part of the project, I have Capturing the Trans Joy of their experience and the hardship. So that's 2 separate portrait photo shoot sessions.
Oh, okay. All right. So depending on what a person wanted.
Right. And I'll kind of create this concept that is focused on their own experience. So it's very unique to them. And all of the details are on my website under the projects section. I have a couple other projects if there's any couples interested in projects that I have going on. I have something that focuses on creating a cinematic experience but for queer people. So I kind of want to focus on all of the cinematic famous romantic movies and changing those scenes into more queer scenes, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. And I think I saw on there, this is more traditional than editorial, but for queer high school seniors, prom type pictures or graduation pictures.
Absolutely, yeah. All kinds of stuff, but I specifically do want to focus on queer representation just because I know, being a trans photographer, it's definitely a lot easier for one of my clients who is trans to be able to get a photo shoot done by me, just because I know that's a very serious thing for a lot of people.
I'm going to say this so that you hold me to account here. I tend to deflect with humor. So when I'm anxious, when I'm like right now, having trouble speaking, I will deflect with a joke. Don't let me do that. I am very seriously considering asking you to work with me on something because I've had bad experiences with photographers, and I would love to have a good one. I'm so scared, Sam. And I'm not even sure I know what of, because I've looked at the prices and I've thought, okay, this could be something that makes you feel really good about yourself. But I'm scared. Talk me into it.
So I've had a lot of clients say this exact same thing that you're saying. It's their first some of them it's their first photo shoot as they are now, and I tell them that me being a trans photographer, I understand to an extent what you go through. So I try my best to really capture that in my work and in my art, and I turn you into art. I really do. That's one of my main things that I tell people, is that I want to be able to capture someone and capture someone's experience and turn it into art that later helps them kind of see their experience in a different light and become more confident. And they're like, oh wow, like I can become art. Like that's crazy. And I've gotten the feedback where they've said that, like, wow, yeah, this has helped me, and it's helped me view myself in a more confident way. Like, they're more confident about themselves, and that's really, really what I want to do with my work, is to make queer people feel more confident in themselves, because they should.
Yeah, I would love for that to happen. There's so many things to be scared of. I would be afraid that I would look at something like that, and I'm just going to use the harsh terminology that my brain uses. I would be afraid that I'd see a guy in a dress. I'm afraid that I would look and just see all the flaws. Your hands are too big. Your shoulders are a swimmer's shoulders. You sound like Batman. Although maybe a photograph wouldn't capture that. And the fact that I've had bad experiences with photographers before makes me reluctant. But that end product, the promise of potentially an end product that I could look at and go, oh, that's me.
Like, wow, that's me.
That's me. Yeah.
That's what I want people to,
yeah. That's exactly it. Well, that sounds like we want two of the same thing.
Perfect.
All right. Well, people should write in and convince me to do this, because Sam's making perfect sense to me right now, which means I'm going to go home and just obsess over it. There are all sorts of good ways for people to support your art.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I have a lot of different links on my website. I have a merch page, so I also am a designer in addition to a photographer. So I create, I have like a clothing brand. I have like sweatshirts, stickers, T-shirts, and then I have prints, photography prints, as well as graphic design prints, and all of it is queer and mental health related. I want to be able to kind of design something and have someone wear it and really be like, wow, like I'm promoting LGBTQ people as well as mental health awareness.
Yeah.
And then I also have, as I said, prints. And then I have a donations page that I recently created, which is for other trans folk. If you wanted to donate a photo shoot to someone, or any of my merch to someone who might need it more than someone else does. Someone did that recently. It was the cutest thing. I had someone message me and say, hey, like, I want to buy a photo shoot for someone, and sent me
what a great present.
Sent me the amount for a photo shoot, and I did a giveaway for it recently.
And there are so many queer occasions that there's the anniversary of the time you came out.
Exactly.
I know when I had my various surgeries.
Right, like the surgery photo shoot, the coming out. I just did a coming out photo shoot for someone recently the other day. It's really, really cool. So if you're ever interested in something like that, it's all on my website. But
yeah, we will link to all of this.
Perfect.
And for the listeners, I understand completely that this is an audio medium, and we just spent more than an hour talking about photographs. I get it. Go to Sam's website, check out these photos. We will provide you with all the links you need. Sam, thank you so much for this afternoon. This has been wonderful.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Really enjoyed talking to you. And I will get back to you about the
Sounds good.
All right. After I packed up my recording gear and said goodbye to Samuel, I treated myself to the Blue Orchid's signature dish, a bowl of cow soy. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a Thai dish, a coconut curry noodle soup. I had mine with shrimp. I mean, this soup was brilliant. It was the perfect level of spicy. I mean, yes, I did sweat while I was eating it, but hey, come on, I'm of Irish descent. It's a low bar. The heat index never overpowered the taste. Good food nourishes the body. Art nourishes the soul. This has been Transqat. I'm Claire McCarthy. Thank you for listening, and let's talk soon.
This is Sadie McCarthy. I'm Claire's niece. Transqat is a production of Transqat Enterprises, LLC. Copyright 2022, all rights reserved. Join us on the web at transqat.com. That's TRANSQAT.com. There, you'll find links to Transqat, the blog, writing projects, speaking engagements, and more. You can also meet the team who thought spelling cat with a Q was a good idea. Follow Transqat on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Leave us a comment on whatever platform you use to stream this podcast. Just remember to be kind. She has enough self-esteem problems already. To reach Claire with a question or a suggestion for an upcoming episode, just use the contact page at the website or email her directly at crmtransqat@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.